Hey guys, I am the Seaman235 and I am back for the finale of my video series that should have ended at the end of June, but shit came up. But yeah, I'm covering the last of E3. I'm going to be covering pretty much all of what each conference showed at E3 for the big three, aka the ones we care about: Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Spoiler warning, Microsoft are the winners of E3, so let's just go over my individual thoughts on each conference. Alright, short version for the sake of not saying any spoilers if you haven't seen them, which, really? You haven't at this point? Really? But whatever. Microsoft was actually pretty damn good. I would give them about a B. I think I've said this in the past. I would give them about a B+, A-, somewhere around there. In fact, the more I think about it, maybe I should just give them an A- just for effort. Microsoft was by far the best conference here. It's funny, years ago, back in 2013, 5 years ago, we were just ragging on them over and over and over again, giving them so much shit. Now look at them. They're the winners of E3. Granted, it's by default mostly, but still, it was a good conference. I won't lie, it was actually a pretty damn good conference. Not the best I've ever seen. It doesn't top some of the Nintendo, Sony E3s, but it definitely was their best E3 showcase in a while, honestly. Not to say Microsoft was bad in the past, besides 2013 and somewhat 2014. Those two were abysmal, but this one was pretty damn good. It was good. They had a lot to show. The pacing was pretty brisk. There were a few problems I had, which I listed on this little list. However, overall it was a decent conference, and I would certainly give it a good old A-, B+, whichever one I'm up to. Most likely probably a B+. I would say that's more of a generalization of a rating, but still, it's pretty good, It's a good conference. They were the winners of E3. Bethesda was second place. Sony, on the other hand, was... Alright. At first, I didn't hate their conference as much as other people did. I still didn't like it. Now looking back on it, especially because I forgot some of the shit that happened in E3, I had to write down everything. I had to go back to the Sony and Microsoft E3, and honestly, the more I look at Sony's E3 conference, in massive quotes, the more I just fucking hate it. I fucking despise Sony's conference. This is probably one of the worst E3 showcases ever. I mean, it's not Wii Music bad, but I would honestly, I would only put it slightly above EA, if only because EA is always terrible. Always terrible. Sony, on the other hand, was so massively disappointing, and I'll get to why in a little bit, but they were probably the biggest disappointing E3 I've ever had since probably Microsoft 2013, because I had expectations that maybe Microsoft would play Damage Control, and they didn't at all. They kept going with their bullshit, but whatever. That was years ago at this point, but still. So let's get about 90% of this video out of the way and talk about Microsoft. I apologize if I forget a few things and if I mess up a few details. It has been months since I have seen the directs in full. Really, when I talked about going through Microsoft's, not Microsoft's, because I had the notes written down at that point, Sony's and Nintendo's, it's really just from memory. I didn't rewatch the actual showcases before this. I just skimmed through them to write down the details I remember, and I probably should have rewatched them, but I'm a lazy fuck, so let's move on. Alright, so the first one they showed off, this isn't the first thing I have on the list, but it is the first thing they showed off. I'm going out of order, by the way. If I do this in order, we'll never get done. Halo Infinite, which... Is that Halo 6? Is that Halo 6? I'm not sure if that's Halo 6 or not. Now, to be fair, maybe they're just done with the numbers, because they know that Halo is just become another shooter at this point, which is fine. I mean, I don't mind. I only really played Halo Reach, which I enjoyed. I actually really liked that game. It's a great game. One of the best shooters I've played. Not that I've played many, granted, but Halo Reach was a cut above a lot of the rest. You know, I really should play some of the other Halo games, the earlier ones done by Bungie, since I hear Halo 1, 2, and especially 3 are amazing. But, yeah, Halo Reach was really good, so I really enjoyed that. As for Halo 4 and beyond, I've never touched another Halo game after that. Halo 4 got rid of a mode I really enjoyed, and I just did not bother playing it after that, mostly just because I didn't care. So, yeah, that was something. At the same time, you know, I'm not sure if it's back now. I believe it was the, yeah, it was the mode that essentially, it was the wave mode. I'm not sure what it was called, but it was essentially where you fought waves of enemies until you died, and there were a certain amount of waves of enemies, I believe like 10 or 20, and it got progressively more difficult the more you went on. It was a mode that was pretty much in every shooter. It was a survival mode. But I really liked the way they did it, because you could customize any feature you wanted to and just have so much fun. I love the Forge mode. That was a lot of fun, and they just got rid of it, and that was disappointing. So I like the story mode too, but you know, that from what I hear, Halo Reach is the point where the story people stopped caring. Halo Reach was really the last decent story from Halo games. Like the first one was, you know, good in terms of story. Second one, good up until the cliffhanger ending. Halo 3, not so much, but still had resolution, I guess. Reach was, you know, a nice return to form. It was a simple story, but it was a good story. And then every other Halo game after that was not the best in terms of story. So, especially 5, I hear a shit, because a certain somebody went evil. If you've played the game, you know. I've never played Halo 5, but I know that you know who turns evil. I know her name, I just don't want to say it, just because some people haven't played the game, and then they'll bitch at me, how dare you spoil that for me? I don't care. Alright, I'm not dealing with that shit. I know who it is, and if you played the game, you know who, but just for the sake of people not bitching, you know. So anyway, Microsoft also apparently has some games on a streaming service. I don't really remember all the details from it. Again, it's been a month, nearly a month since I've seen it by the time of this recording, so I apologize in advance if I don't really remember it. I don't really think it was too important, though. Oh yeah, they also had a charity thing, but unlike EA, where they did a malicious smear campaign on the charity they supported by saying, hey, see, we're good people, we support charity. This one was a lot more earnest. They brought it up. They didn't say it was for their namesake. They just brought it up and asked people to support it and told people where the money was going and why they support the cause, and that was it. They dropped it. You know what? That's fine. That is perfectly fine. That is a fine way to do charity in E3. I don't mind if you want to bring up charity in E3, because it should, you know, charity is always a good thing for organizations like the Children's Hospital or, you know, just, you know, Cure for Cancer or whatever. Charity for most things is usually good. Most, not all, but most things, important things like that, like children's hospitals and, you know, shit like that, is always good. And I'm happy that it gets awareness at E3, because what better place to show it than where a bunch of gamers meet up and watch shit. Microsoft felt a lot more earnest than EA did when they did that. They didn't feel like they were just saying, see guys, we're good people. It felt like they actually wanted to help people, and that's why they did it. So, good on you, Microsoft. You stuck it to EA, so that was pretty awesome. There was also, again, I'm going out of order, because this was very late in the, this was very late, actually, in the stream. We Happy Few, which I thought... I'm probably not the first. I know I'm not the first person to say this. I know Ted has said it. I believe Pro Jared actually said it too. We Happy Few, I thought it was already out. But apparently it wasn't, and I mean, I know what they're going for. I know the reason behind everything, what the title means, what the point of the story is, and it's not a bad idea. It's been done to death, but it's not a bad idea for a story if it's told well. It's a bit on the nose, and by a bit, I mean it's in your face as hell, but there was also, Ori, Will of the Wisps, which... Oh, wait, alright. I forgot about it for a minute. I remember it now. That actually did look good, and that was actually really adorable. I actually enjoyed that. If it's the game I'm thinking of, which I believe it is, Oh, fuck it, past me. Here's a goddamn picture of it, moron. Yeah, I actually do remember it a bit. I believe it was the, cartoony game with the rather... it was a really, it was more, of a... It was sort of like a very artsy game, but it was really adorable from what I've seen. So if it is the game I'm thinking of, then yeah, that was actually, you know, pretty good. That was actually a pretty good showcase. Sekiro Shadows DLC... Wait, no, Sekiro Shadows... Or Sekiri Shadows, I'm not sure, I think I might have spelled it wrong, Die Twice. I forgot about it, so we're moving on. Alright, so here's a couple of things I think I talked about previously. Let's just get them out of the way. Fallout 76, I already really kind of talked about it. Captain Spirit, I don't know if I've talked about it. I've talked about it a little bit, I did actually, because Square Enix. It looks interesting, I mean... the idea is pretty neat. I do love the idea for the story, so that's definitely neat. You know, it's essentially a kid escaping into his imagination, and that's where the gameplay comes from, and everything else is it's more story-focused. So, that's neat. We'll see how it goes. I know some people really don't like Life is Strange, and some people do. I hear so many different opinions on it. People can't really decide whether they like it or hate it. Just Cause 4, which I think I've talked about, and it was a Just Cause game, and that was all I could really say about it. Metro Exodus, which... Alright, I'm gonna be honest, I forgot about that too. I believe they also showed off, they also showed off, Nier Automata, I believe, again, but, I mean, you know... kind of a thing. Crackdown 3, which... Alright, it was definitely, you know what? I don't really remember much of it. Battlefield 5, they actually showed again, actually. I believe they showed off new content for it. No, not Battlefield... Yeah, it was Battlefield 5. Stupid names, I swear. But yeah, Battlefield 5, they showed it off again, and I talked about it on EA. So, yeah. Tales of Vesperia, it had a definitive version. There was also Tunic, which actually, this I do remember, because I made a note of it, so I remember it. What was really annoying about this was that they took the camera away from the screen and wouldn't focus on it. It wasn't as bad or as insulting as Ubisoft, but it was still pretty damn bad. So yeah, that was stupid. Forza Horizon 4, which... Didn't we just have the third game? I'm not a Forza fan, and I thought they spent way too long on that. Forza is Forza. Division 2, with its boring-ass commentary, holy shit. Alright, let me just play you this clip from their conference.
Crash site is just ahead. Duke, Kit, did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Closer this time.
Oh, this parachute dropped right through the ceiling. Let me see if I can get this. Oh, that'll That'll come in handy. Oh, Merry Christmas. Ah, here's the door.
Karpinski, it's the division.
Hey, let me just talk to this guy.
That sums up my thoughts. The boring commentary was so bad, and you know, I don't really think I need to talk about Tom Clancy. I already talked about it enough in my EA video, and it's Tom Clancy. It's Tom Clancy, and that's it. Tomb Raider 3, which I talked about again. A lot of the stuff I talked about. Cuphead is actually coming out with new content, so that's neat, though I'm surprised they did, considering Cuphead was a nightmare to actually make. But whatever, you know, more content is nice, I guess. Devil May Cry 5 was probably the biggest one of the entire show, just because Capcom just announced it, and I thought it looked a bit weird. I'm not really sure about the style they're going for. It kind of looks like a mix of the reboot and the original games, but it's not actually a reboot. It actually continues off of 4. But people seem to really be happy about it, so yay! Devil May Cry 5. I've never played the series, and I probably should. KH3 had its Frozen trailer, which I didn't talk about much, I believe, but let me just get the KH stuff out of the way, just because, you know, there was a lot of it. There was some stuff at Sony, so I'm just going to blow through both trailers. They were both excellent, and I feel like the Pirates of the Caribbean one was better just because I just really like the idea of going to the Pirates world, even though it's tackling probably the worst of the movies, which is Dead Man. No, At World's End. They're tackling that movie, and that movie is shit, but at the same time, I mean, can't really be helped. Most of the other Pirates movies that aren't the first one suck, so kind of out of material. But hey, they can make it work. I hope they can, anyway. I don't know. With Nomura and Kingdom Hearts, you can never really tell. The Frozen world, however, does look good, and I do really enjoy it. Aqua has been Norded, which I love that Norded is a term. I believe I've said that in a previous video, but I love that term, and it should be thrown around all over the place. So that was really funny. That was really fun. The song is starting to grow on me, and the game looks amazing. So yeah. Both trailers were pretty good. The Gummy Ship was also showed off a bit. We didn't see much of it. I know we have some more footage of it now. We also got a release date in January of 2019, and everyone's upset, but I don't care. I'm just happy it has a release date at this point, and at the same time, you know, let's be honest here, it's like a month after that. And I honestly was not really too keen about waiting until December, because that's when a certain other game comes out, which we'll talk about near the end, as it was Nintendo's little thing. Oh god, I love this. I never thought they would actually have pirate ship battles in any of the Pirates worlds, but they actually showed off pirate battles, and they were amazing. They were so beautiful. I loved it. The model quality on the live-action Disney models for Captain Jack Sparrow and all the other Pirates characters. Oh my god, they're amazing. Like, holy shit. They actually blend in together really well, while the world in particular was just beautiful, and I love the pirate battles. That was just really, really funny. I love the how it was. I shouldn't say funny. It was really fun. What was funny was that it actually looked like a better pirate game than Sea of Thieves or Skull and Bones. I don't know how they did it, but they actually made it look more fun than those. Maybe it's just my bias for Kingdom Hearts, but honestly, it was just a hell of a lot more entertaining than those two games were. Plus, it probably will have more content than Sea of Thieves. But, yeah. But yeah, still. Speaking of Sea of Thieves, it's getting new content, so that's a thing. There's also Black Desert, which, I'm gonna be honest, I forgot about. Alright then. Sorry if I forgot about it. Again, it's been a while. There's Battletoads 2019, which, holy shit, Battletoads. What? They didn't show any gameplay, it was just a teaser, but I mean, I didn't expect it, so that was neat. They're actually, funny how people actually said, what actually might get people excited is that, that they might actually, if they use a Rare franchise properly, people might actually get hyped. There you go, they did it. It is a Rare franchise. Probably not the one they wanted. It would probably be Banjo-Kazooie and tons of other ones, but whatever, close enough. I mean, they tried Perfect Dark, and that turned out terribly from what I hear. So yeah. Moving on, there was also an announcement for tons of other companies, I believe 6 companies being hired by Microsoft in order to improve their library of games. One of the problems that Microsoft has, and the Xbox brand in general has, is that the Xbox really doesn't have many exclusives. And that's a really big problem since Sony has a shit ton of them and Nintendo has a shit ton of them, like even more than the other 2 companies do. But Sony and Nintendo have their shit. Xbox really doesn't, so what's the point? Xbox really doesn't have any exclusives, so what's the point of getting an Xbox if they don't really have any notable games to get on it? I mean, everything that's on an Xbox One is most likely going to be on PC. Even Xbox exclusives that are on the Xbox One are on the PC, they're coming to PC anyway, and there's like, what, 3 at this point? And they're not even that great, so there's really no point in getting an Xbox One. At this point, you might as well just save up for a decent gaming rig. Some people argue that Microsoft said that you don't have to get an Xbox One. If you get a PC, that's fine. But I'd also argue, okay, that's fine, but then why do you have the Xbox brand? Why are you still keeping it around then? At this point, I think Microsoft should just give up on it, but no, they announced they have plans for another Xbox, and Sony, I know, had plans for a PS5. They didn't announce anything, but they said so in an interview, I believe. That was before E3, and that was about it. Just the thing with the Xbox is that it doesn't really have any games for it that aren't on the PC, so the Xbox One X, what's the point of buying it if you can just buy a decent gaming rig, and it's probably better too. Better specs, better graphics, better games, since you essentially have the best version of a lot of games, even from previous generations, and not to mention free updates, and more frequent updates, especially with games like Minecraft and Terraria, which generally get a lot of updates like every week, because companies don't have to pay money to the people who own the brands like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft. There's usually a fee that they have to pay for to put DLC and updates on there. They don't have to do that for most companies. Don't have to do that for PC. They can just update the game and that's it, which has its disadvantages, but generally it comes with more advantages than disadvantages. I mean, would you want to pay a shit ton of dollar bills just to update the damn game? I didn't think so. So, some people are pissed that some companies shilled out to Microsoft just for the sake of getting hired, but guys, these people do have lives, they have families to support, they can't just make games off of nothing forever. They need to move up in the world. So I'm actually happy that indie devs are getting respect and actually moving on to bigger and better things. But that's just me. I mean, look, if an indie developer wants to stay an indie developer, that's fine. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to go bigger, if you want to go up in the world and be hired, if you want to be hired, that's fine too. I support indie devs being treated with more respect nowadays than they sometimes usually get from other developers. Offs at Nintendo. Well, not so much with indie devs, but more with fan games. But whatever. The point is, I'm happy that indie devs are moving up, because there are some indie developers that definitely deserve it. And from what I hear, most of the ones that Microsoft announced would now be working with them, they deserve it, so that's a good thing. They also had Gears, which, alright, this is hilarious. They actually pulled a one-up on us. It was really funny. They had Gears Pop, which everyone saw the Gears logo and they were like, woo! And then Gears Pop came up and they was like, whoa! What? What the hell is this shit? And then it was a mobile game announced and everyone was just like, the cheers instantly stopped. It was hilarious. Here's the clip. Oh god, it was priceless. It was so priceless. It was beautiful. It was the best troll moment I've ever seen since Zero Suit Samus not being in Smash 4. And then, nope, just kidding. Which, there was a troll moment here in Nintendo's conference. But that'll be for later. It was hilarious. And then they actually show Gears 5. And that's where the punchline really was. Because a lot of people thought, oh no, that's not, no, that can't be it, no, Microsoft, you wouldn't. Then Gears 5 is announced, and it looks impressive. I definitely will say it looked a lot more impressive than Gears 4, which I've never played a Gears game, but Gears 4 didn't really look all that great. Not to say it looked bad, it was unimpressive compared to other FPSs. There were so many FPSs in previous years that it just looked typical, and that was really all I had to say about Gears 4 in general. It wasn't bad. I heard it was a decent game, not as good as the previous ones, but still decent. It's just that, it didn't look interesting to me. Gears 5 is the complete opposite. It looks very interesting. It seems to be more of an adventure-esque game, sort of like The Last of Us, but with FPS, gameplay. I'm sure they're still going to have multiplayer. I'm pretty sure it does. I'm not sure. I'm not knowledgeable about Gears. It looked interesting from a single-player standpoint. Story-wise, the characters were kind of assholes, but whatever. The gameplay looked intriguing, so that was definitely a thing. Alright, and so the last couple of things they showed was Dying Light 2, which I forgot about. This is a very great video, by the way. You should totally watch the rest of it. I totally know what I'm talking about. Anyway, they also showed off Jump Force, which is another anime fighting game, which, when I actually saw that, there was a realistic city that looked like it would be out of Devil May Cry or Marvel vs. Capcom, and then suddenly Goku, Luffy, and Naruto, and tons of other characters from Shonen Jump. And I was just like, whoa, alright. I mean, we'll see how it turns out. So yeah, that was a thing. I'm not really into any of the franchises they showed. I mean, I know about them. I hear that, My Hero Academia characters are gonna be in it. Not sure if that's true. It would make sense. It is a shonen, sort of. So, it is somewhat in the same league as those, at least in terms of what type of show it tries to be. But, I would love to see Seto Kaiba and Yugi Moto in there, because they would totally kick the shit out of Goku until they, no, they probably wouldn't, not even close. There was also Cyberpunk, which is actually what the team behind Witcher 3 is working on. So, yeah, they were working on a new franchise, and that's about it. I will say the secret reveal was really clever. What they showed off was very stereotypical. So we don't really know any specifics about the gameplay. It's probably just going to be a futuristic Witcher 3, so alright, seems interesting enough. So yeah, that was that. Alright, so that was pretty much Microsoft, and like I said, they were pretty damn good this year. I know it sounds like I hated them considering I didn't remember everything. You have to remember, it's been a month since I've seen the entire video. I'll re-record a few parts if I find out what the hell certain other things were. But overall, they were definitely the most memorable. A lot of the reveals were actually very well done as well, and it was just a really solid conference. It wasn't the best conference I've ever seen, but it didn't really have to be. It was just a solid, good conference. Not to mention, it's nice to know Microsoft is trying to save the Xbox brand from just being not PC, or a lesser PC. And I know some people would say, well, it also has crossplay, but the PC has crossplay, and so does the Switch. Sony doesn't, because they're dicks, but whatever. That's besides the point. Speaking of Sony, oh boy, stay, alright, can opener over it. I was putting a can opener over my, the piece of paper. But holy shit, Sony was garbage. I'm so... Sony was garbage. They were terrible. Alright, the announcements they showed, all 7 of them, yes, they only, from what I gathered, they only showed 7 games. 7. And I counted. Now, maybe they showed off with the stupid, more games with the stupid talking head shit, but I didn't watch that portion. Now, alright, the way I watched Sony stream, is I was late to it, so I rewinded and watched Last of Us. And then afterwards, I saw that, it was talking heads right afterwards. I didn't know why there was some kind of intermission. I didn't know why it had the stupid talking heads. So I skipped it until about halfway through that section where the rest of that first half an hour of the conference was just talking heads, so I muted it and did something else. If they announced something there, I apologize. I don't care, alright? I did not want to sit through that shit. And the reason why was because they took everybody to a church that was across the street, and everyone had to stand up, and it was really awkward and uncomfortable, and that's when where they showed off The Last of Us. And I get the idea, I know why they did it. It was trying to immerse the audience, since the trailer where everyone's dancing and Ellie kisses a girl because lesbians are hot is all set in a church. I get why they did that, that's fine. What I don't like is that afterwards, everyone had to walk back to the Sony Stadium. Why didn't you just have the E3 conference at the church? Or maybe decorate the place so it looks like a church? I don't know, but what they did was stupid. I understand the goal, but it was just really poorly done. There was also the banjo guy, which I know a lot of people didn't like. Honestly, I thought he was fine. I mean, I know a lot of people have mixed reactions to the musical parts of E3, but I didn't mind the banjo, personally. I mean, he's no God of War music from the 2014 E3 presentation, I believe. So yeah, nothing like that, but whatever. It was fine. It's better than the flute, which I'll talk about later. But still, these intermissions, or that intermission I should say, because it was only one, but it was about a half an hour intermission. It was bad, and they had to wait for everyone to get back in, and I understand. I know that everyone, it's not the people's fault for being slow. It's more just that Sony shouldn't have done it to begin with. And from what I hear from like Derek from Game Explain, because I believe he talked about it on his Twitter. I know Ted mentioned it as well. From what he got from Derek, it wasn't even very comfortable. So it's just like, why even do it? So that was terrible. That was abysmal. And then afterwards, that's when they showed up The Last of Us, which did look good, by the way. And no, it's not just because of the lesbians. Like, the gameplay actually looked good. It was, I did like the tension, the way it was directed, the way it was shot. It was well done. It showed off, a few new mechanics. but nothing major. You know, it showed off a few new details, but it was generally pretty good. A good showcase. I don't know why we had to go to a church, but whatever. So after that bullshit, we went to the back to the Sony Stadium after a half an hour of the conference just wasted, where we saw alright, I might pronounce this wrong, Ghost of Tsushima or Tsushima. I believe it's Tsushima, and if it's not, I'm sorry, but Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, so that's really hard to say. Ghosts of Tsushima, which looked incredible. That was probably the highlight of the show for a lot of people. It wasn't mine, but it's probably in the second place. It's made by Sucker Punch, who made the first 3 Sly Cooper games. So that was really good. That was a very good showcase. From a story and a gameplay perspective, it looks really interesting. It's just the way it kind of reminds me of an old samurai movie, but actually as a game, and it was really interesting. The flute, it's from the era. He was playing the flute to play a song. I'm going to assume that's going to be in the game. It was terrible. Not the guy playing the flute. It's not that he was necessarily bad, but I don't know if the flute was stuck or if the microphone was just shit. But he kept cutting out. I'm not sure why. I was watching the IGN stream, and it was just, I don't know if it was the IGN stream or not. All I know is that it kept cutting out, so that was a thing. Also, since we had a musical performance, we didn't really need 2. And also, he kept stopping and then going and then stopping and going. And it was just like, guys, you do rehearse this, right? Please tell me you actually rehearsed it. I guess not. But whatever. Yes, but Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima looked really impressive. And I hope I never have to say that again. But I probably will, since this game will probably be in development for at least another 2 years. But whatever. Afterwards was Resident Evil 2 Remake, which, Capcom, you are on fire. Like, what happened? We'll still have to wait and see if the games are actually going to be good. But we have Mega Man 11, which no one thought would ever get announced. We have Resident Evil 2's Remake, Devil May Cry 3, 3 games, 3 of the biggest games people have been asking for. We have all 3 of them. So yeah, Resident Evil 2 Remake, that was good. Good announcement for a lot of people. I know a lot of people got hyped for it because they just did not expect it. Also, there was Trover Saves the Universe, which was totally not a Rick and Morty game whatsoever. No, not whatsoever. I mean, yeah, it's done by the people who make Rick and Morty. It even has Justin Roiland, or Roy. It has the voice actor for Rick and Morty and like 50 other characters in Rick and Morty in the game, and he does his you know, advertiser voice where he's doing interdimensional TV, where he's just like, yeah, there's like you know, there's a bunch of fake doors and shit, so come on down to fake doors, you know, and you know, that shit. And then after, you know, they had Morty as well. They had the Morty voice. It was like, oh God, Rick, I really don't want to do this, Rick. I'm not really sure if I can handle this. You know, that voice. So they had those 2 voices. I could tell immediately it was a Rick and Morty game. Apparently, it takes place in the same multiverse. Yes, multiverse, not universe. It's Rick and Morty we're talking about. So, I mean, I like the show. I'm not sure about the game, though. It looked fun enough, but I will have to see more of it and what it actually is. There was also Kingdom Hearts 3 with the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, and I already talked about it, so moving on. There was Kojima's game, Death Stranding. Death Stranding. Alright, I'm gonna piss off a few people with this. I did not like the showing of this game. Now, look, I know Kojima fans are really excited that he's actually getting the chance to make a game he's probably wanted to make for a while. I know this is probably just a replacement for Silent Hills. Alright, fine. But, I'm sorry. First off, I didn't need to see the baby inside of the woman's vagina. What the fuck was that? Did I need to see that? Did I? No, I don't really think I wanted to see that. I would have been fine actually sleeping that night. Fuck you, Kojima. I know it wasn't intentional, but it was still like, ugh. But, you know, that aside, whatever. The game just doesn't really look interesting. What are you doing in this game? I mean, yeah, I know story details, but just make a movie if you're gonna tell a story, dude. You know, I don't really know. It's like an open world survival game? But I don't even know what you're surviving against. I saw a woman who wears spandex, at least I think it was, or some kind of some kind of leather suit. All right. I saw a baby inside of a vagina, which, ugh. Saw an open world, and yeah, I got nothing else. I mean, I don't know what this game is supposed to be. Death Stranding. I'm not interested, honestly. I've never really been interested in Kojima's games. I respect Kojima a lot, and I'm sure the game will be fine, but the marketing behind it, what they're trying to do, is not working. I think they need to do something different for the marketing. Otherwise, the game is just... I don't want to say it's not going to do well, but it's definitely raising a lot of eyebrows, because no one knows what the fuck this game is supposed to be. Death Stranding, I know people are excited. I'm happy for those people. I'm not one of those. It looks way too out there. I know Kojima's weird, but I don't know, this was a bit too weird for me. And even then, the trailer didn't show me... It showed me weirdness and story, and that's it. It didn't show me... It showed me gameplay, but I still don't really... Even showing me gameplay, I don't know what the hell it's supposed to be. An open world survival game? What is it? I remember bits and pieces of the trailer, but I still don't know what it was. I still didn't know what it was. And to end this abomination of a conference was Spider-Man 2017, which was my highlight. Now, to be fair, Ghost of Tsushima, I know for a lot of people, was actually the biggest highlight, and that was fine. Spider-Man 2017, I really was not sold on it in last year's presentation. I thought it was way too quickiest, timiest, eventious. I thought it was way too much stealth. Stealth is not a bad thing in Spider-Man, by the way. Spider-Man Noir wasn't that bad, but stealth in video games has never really been my forte, and I thought it looked a lot like an Arkham game. This one seems like now it's finally starting to come into its own. It was a lot less quick time event happy. It still had them, but it was nowhere near as much as last time. And at the same time, it looked a lot more combat heavy. I even actually got to see some gameplay of it after the show with the talking heads, and that gameplay was also pretty interesting. We got to hear more of the development behind it. We got to see more gameplay of them swinging around the entire city. So yeah, this was a definite highlight for me. I was really impressed with Spider-Man. Not sure about the cop character. Was she in the comics? She's pretty much the Commissioner Gordon, I guess, of the of this game. I'm not sure if they just added her just to have another reference to Arkham. It really does seem like they're going for a Arkham-styled game. Not sure if that'll work or not, but Spider-Man, I thought it had enough differences. I especially love where Spider-Man jumps up and just shoots a shit ton of web bullets or whatever. That was really cool. It showed a lot more possibilities with the combat than I had thought. So that was really neat. I'm not sure if I'm going to buy it day one. I'm definitely not pre-ordering it. But if I hear good things about it from reviewers, I might actually pick it up myself, because I really did like what I saw here. I might actually pick this game up. So I might actually pick the game up and play it. So that's really neat. Spider-Man 2017 sold me on it. Yeah, the Insomniac and Sony sold me on it at long last. So that was really good. Good job, guys. Unfortunately, everything else in Sony was just really... And that's really it, honestly. Like, it may have just sounded like I had a lot to say, but they only showed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. Maybe more if I missed any, but 7 to 9 games, I'd say 7. I only found 7. That's peanuts. There's a reason I lumped Sony with Microsoft, and that's simply because there just wasn't much to show for Sony. Microsoft had a shit ton more to show. It was a longer conference because they showed off so much shit. And Sony, a half an hour of the conference, nearly a third of the... I think it was actually a third of the conference, or maybe half of it, was just filler. It was bullshit. No one cared about. So it's just like, Sony was abysmal, which is disappointing, because I usually am a big fan of Sony. And to top it off, they won't support crossplay, which is stupid. Sony, get your heads out of your asses. It's funny how the reverse happens. Like, 1 minute Sony's on top of the world with the Xbox and how they're, Microsoft expoed themselves so hard, and then now it's the reverse. Now Sony is exponing themselves, or PS4ing themselves. We'll find another term for it. The point is, Sony, stop fucking up. Stop fucking up, alright? Take a note from your competitors and actually support crossplay. Seriously, what the hell is... whatever. Point is, E3 for Sony was pretty damn bad. Disappointing, to say the least. I definitely will say Sony was the biggest disappointment this E3, because I usually look forward to what I see from them. This year, no. I'm sorry, Sony, they're not as bad as the EA, because EA has always been terrible, but if it weren't for the 7 games they showed off that looked somewhat interesting, because all of the games looked interesting, except for Death Stranding. I still stand by that. But besides, like, Death Stranding, every other game looked interesting, but the filler and the fact that they didn't show that much, if that filler wasn't there, the conference would probably be I don't even think it would be longer than Square Enix's. The games were good, except for Death Stranding. Sorry. I'm sure the game will be fine, it's just the marketing for that game is terrible. Anyway, point is, they didn't show that much, and while what they showed was good, except for Death Stranding, sorry, again, it's just, they didn't show that much, and even then, the filler was just, like, insane. It was just really, EA showed more. Most of what they showed was shit, but they even showed more. EA showed more than Sony, one of the big 3! One of the big motherfucking 3 that we expect to blow it out of... also Sony, too, because Sony, besides 2016, which was just a meh show, 2015, 2014, and 2013, from what I remember, they were good shows. Well, alright, 2014 had some issues. I hear 2014 had some issues for Microsoft too. But 2015 and 2013 especially, those were some of the best E3s I've seen. They were just really, really huge. But this E3, nah, no. This was, yeah. This was probably the second worst E3 showcase for me, and that's only because they had games I cared about. If it weren't for the games they did show, this would probably be worse than EA for me. Yeah, that bad. I guess, on to Nintendo.